part of what we have to help people understand is don't think you're in Donald Trump's club. You're not.
Right.
He's not going to be thinking about you. You think he's having you over for
in
dinner?
the business than Joe Rogan right now.
The Breakfast Club is pretty big.
Fam.
No.
Fam, stop it. Stop it.
You think Joe Rogan's bigger than Breakfast Club?
10 times your size.
Why do you think that?
Just look at the numbers. I did 10 million views in 2 days.
On what?
On the interview. Between the clips and the interview.
Soulja Boy did 15 in a day.
That's Soulja Boy.
And who was Soulja Boy at that time?
Exactly. Soulja Boy is one of the most well-known artists in the world. Hold on, you really think that your platform is bigger than Rogan?
Just as big, easily.
Come on, bro. Let's look at the recent interviews on Breakfast Club compared to the recent interviews on Rogan.
Let's start this video out by saying that to Charlamagne the fraud, Mr. Leonard McKelvey, Mr. 46-year-old man-child, Mr. I don't think I need to say anything else. I think you guys pretty much already know where I'm at. That is peak delusion. And to Shannon Sharpe, let me just go ahead and say that all I have to do is put this right here up. And by the way, the total has gotten a lot worse as you guys are seeing here. He got absolutely ratio with that episode. It's not like you're doing this person any favors based upon the comment section. And of course, he would eventually tweet about it. And of course, you guys are seeing some of the things that were said to Shannon during his tweet, or at least you guys can obviously see in the thread that people are not exactly enthused about Shannon Sharpe's interview with the current vice president, the current Democratic Party nominee, soon to be absolutely nothing special. And not just nothing special from a political point of view, but let's just say nothing special, period. Okay, guys, before we fully dive into this, I want you guys to go ahead and know this now before we get heavy into the video. This video right here is not just going to be talking about Joe Rogan apparently being snubbed by Kamala Harris, because there's a little bit of controversy going on there about who reached out to who and what the conditions were about the episode they were supposed to have. But also, we're going to be talking about Charlamagne the Fraud's delusion, while also at the same time talking about Club Shay Shay, Shannon Sharpe's very, very weak interview that he did with Kamala Harris. It was basically, she basically buffed the side of his face with her rear, but we'll be talking a little bit about that, kind of a smorgasbord video, but still, though, the point is this right here. People here on the internet, people on YouTube, podcasters, we're starting to overtake the mainstream media. So, yeah, we got a lot to get into, and obviously, there's some good news here, but let's go to it. Of course, you guys obviously saw Joe Rogan right there in the thumbnail. You guys are obviously seeing this little bit right here from the Rogan-Trump episode, which I'll play some of it for you guys here in a second, but I can't play it all because Rogan is pretty bad about copyright. But I want to go ahead and say this right now. There's this little thing going around saying that Joe Rogan and Kamala Harris were supposed to have an episode of Joe Rogan. And, of course, this was rumored all last week. But, of course, a lot of people, including myself, felt that this would more than likely not going to occur. Now, before I really dive in, I want you to know something right now. I'll be giving you guys my true feelings on Rogan at the very, very end of the video. This is not going to be a long video to start the day. As a matter of fact, the videos that will be released tomorrow will not be long at all. But still, though, the point is this right here. Nobody anticipated this woman would actually sit down with Joe Rogan for 3 hours like Donald Trump did. And, of course, that episode, which many people have accused YouTube of censoring, has actually been refuted. I'll link this video right here in the description box from Mark Dice, and I'll also link this video from Tim Pool in the description box as well, because they do a much, much better job of explaining exactly what happened. But let's just go ahead and say that that episode has got roughly 40 million views, or right to 40 million views at this moment in time. Meanwhile, Shannon Sharpe's episode with Kamala Harris has only got 1 million views. And, of course, as you guys saw at the very beginning of the video, it has been absolutely ratioed to hell. But before we dive in, before we fully go in, make sure you guys please hit the like button. Make sure you guys also please cut on the notifications button, so that way you guys are notified when the video comes out. It's the little bell right there. Make sure you guys please hit the like button. YouTube is doing out of its way to take away likes at this moment in time. They've done that for the past 3 videos that I've had, because I've seen my likes at like 9 or 10, and all of a sudden they were down to like 3 or 4. They do this type of stuff to censor small content creators. You can't convince me of anything different. But let's go ahead and get to the story. So, Rogan had reached out to the Harris team to do an episode of the Joe Rogan Experience. But, of course, the Kamala Harris campaign, they then responded back, according to Rogan, with saying that you've got to fly out to us, and we're only going to give roughly a half hour. Donald Trump was able to give 3 hours, and they're saying that Donald Trump is cognitively impaired, getting old, which of course he is up there in age. But of course, like I've always said before, there are people out there who are like 80 and 90 years old who still have their mental faculties. And even for a person that's of a certain age, they still have their physical faculties. A lot of people have said that Rudy Giuliani, for example, has lost his physical and mental capacities. Well, Rudy has lost his physical capacities, definitely. But mentally, I still listen to the old prosecutor because people forget this guy was the prosecutor, the guy who prosecuted the New York mob long before he became the mayor of New York. He still sounds quite with it, if you ask me, especially for somebody who's getting close to 90. I mean that figuratively and literally both. But still, the point is this right here. Trump was able to go for 3 hours. And of course, this is a small tidbit. You guys tell me what you think about this guy's mental acuity.
I always got more publicity than other people. And it wasn't like I was trying. In fact, I don't know exactly why. Maybe you can tell me why.
Oh, I could definitely tell you. You said a lot of wild shit.
Maybe.
You said a lot of wild shit, and then CNN, in all their brilliance, by highlighting your wild shit, made you much more popular.
Yeah.
And they boosted you in the polls because people were tired of someone talking in this bullshit, pre-prepared politician lingo. And even if they didn't agree with you, they at least knew whoever that guy is, that's him. That's really him. Yeah. When you see certain people talk, certain people in the public eye, you don't know who they are.
The interview itself was actually pretty good. I don't want to turn this right into a Rogan Trump review, but I personally thought that for 3 hours, which, by the way, roughly about an hour and 45 minutes into it, it pretty much devolved. Well, I would say it didn't devolve. I would say it evolved into two guys talking about the fight business. Because Trump at one point in time used to have Mike Tyson fights, boxing matches, and then eventually UFC fights because Dana White went to him. And of course, Trump said you can hold these events in the Trump Tower or Trump Hotel in Atlantic City, New Jersey. The fact of the matter is this right here. Donald Trump was willing to sit down for 3 hours, and he was willing to do an actual interview. And while it may not have been a hard-hitting interview, the Joe Rogan podcast can still be a bit of a, let's just say it can still be a challenge for some people because while it is a 3-hour conversation, it does go in different directions. Now, back to what I was about to get to, and that is Kamala Harris demanding that Joe Rogan go to her and do only 30 minutes. That doesn't sound to me like a person who's confident, or it could sound to me like a person who's got their head so far up their own rear that they really and truly believe that they are a quote-unquote queenie. And people wonder why it is that journalism is dying and dead. There was also this little bit that was shared by Ben Shapiro, also by Tucker Carlson. Apparently, there were text messages. I may do another video on this at a later date where they were saying that there's all this amounts of misinformation according to Media Matters. And you're wondering why it is that they're going after people like Shapiro and Tucker Carlson. People like myself here as well, they basically went after them, basically saying we found like 2,000-3,000 bits of misinformation on your channel. This, by the way, is being coordinated with the mainstream media. You cannot convince me otherwise that that is what's going on, because the mainstream media, television networks like CNN, MSDNC, NBC, CBS, even Fox to a certain extent, would love to have small content creators and YouTube content creators, those on Rumble. They would love to have these people fully deplatformed and removed from reporting anything newsworthy. I don't think I need to go too much into the numbers, but you guys will see that here in a second, because the Beanie guy, he obviously had a take on this as well. But back to the Shannon Sharpe interview. So I started earlier with that little bit that you guys saw. Well, here's some more of Shannon Sharpe basically getting on his knees and letting Kamala Harris, well, let's just show it to you.
Part of what we have to help people understand is don't think you're in Donald Trump's club. You're not.
Right.
He's not going to be thinking about you. You think he's having you over for dinner?
So breakfast, what does Madam VP eat for breakfast, or do you have time to, or is it on the go?
No, when I was younger, I didn't think I needed breakfast. I wasn't a breakfast eater.
Okay.
Now I have breakfast every morning. It's usually a spinach omelet. It's not very exciting.
Right.
But it's protein with a little vegetable. And, I like chicken and apple sausage and some toast. And
something else I wanted to say, though, before we move forward. Why in the world is Call of Duty Black Ops 6 like the sponsor for that episode? And you wonder why it is that people are getting upset with said franchise.
We have guests come on, Madam VP. We like to toast. And what I read on this card, You don't deserve this. You earned this. Being the first in so many areas. And you make us proud. I just want you to know you make us proud for accomplish. And we're 12 days away, and we hope you have an even greater accomplishment. So here's to continued success in everything you've done and everything that you will do.
Oh, bless you, and thank you. And to you, Shannon, to you for all the success and the voice you give to so many issues. Thank you for that.
Thank you very
And
much.
cheers to you.
Cheers.
And I'm not going to actually drink this because I might fall asleep, and I need to do this
I don't want you
with
to fall
Barack
asleep.
Obama this afternoon.
We don't want you to fall asleep.
So here we are. Cheers to everybody.
Even one part in this interview where Shannon Sharpe actually called her auntie. And also that bit right there that you guys saw where she basically refused to take a drink, even though we all know that this woman is drunk at her campaign rallies. Absolutely embarrassing. And of course, the comment section. And of course, I even showed you guys the Twitter thread. People were not exactly what you would call enthused about Shannon Sharpe's performance. So Shannon Sharpe's, let's just say his coddling of her. They weren't exactly good with that. Shannon Sharpe is not a serious person, in my opinion. He's not somebody that you should probably use for politics. This guy's not a journalist. He's always going to take the Democratic Party side. He's even been known to race bait. And while it is that I do have respect for Shannon Sharpe's playing career, since the Cat Williams episode, it's almost like he didn't learn anything at all. The Cat Williams episode, the one that got like 35, I think it's right at 40 million views, where Cat Williams basically just bared all, even though half of it was BS and half of it was actually inaccurate when you actually fact-checked it and got the looked at the actual dates and times and talked to other people, like, say, Ice Cube, but still, though, very insightful. The fact of the matter is that Shannon Sharpe's episode got ratioed for a reason, as you guys obviously saw. Still, though, I cannot get over him calling her auntie and basically saying that you're doing a lot of things to make us proud when the woman, quite frankly, never really and truly earned her position. She was granted the position out of convenience, that right there being the Democratic Party nominee, because she, of course, felt that she was probably going to get, and even then there was some skepticism about that, hence the reason why it was that Obama, who we'll be talking about a little bit later on this week, wanted an open convention. Pelosi wanted an open convention too. Also, something else too, speaking of Nancy Pelosi, it just came out that the guy who attacked Paul Pelosi, David DePappy, he's being sentenced to life in prison with no parole. That is the initial word that we're getting right now. It'll probably get reversed on appeal, but he's definitely going to be going to prison for much, much longer than murderers and other criminals in the state of California go to jail for. But moving on. We did talk earlier. You guys saw, obviously, right there at the very, very beginning, Charlamagne the God obviously feeling himself, saying that he was bigger than Joe Rogan, saying that he was bigger than some of the other podcasters on the platform. And, of course, he doesn't seem to understand that he's actually quite a small fry. Which brings us to the Beanie Man. So let's roll the first half of this, give some commentary, and come back on the other end and provide some additional commentary and tell you exactly what's going on here.
Charlamagne claims his show is bigger than Joe Rogan's. You think Joe Rogan's bigger than The Breakfast Club? The radio host interview with Kamala attracted over 500,000 views in 11 days. Rogan's Trump interview surpassed 23.7 million after a day. Yo, man, I wish I had the diluted... Look, Charlamagne, my friend, your show is comparable to Timcast IRL. No dig. That's me. That's me. Our viewership is comparable. In fact, I got to be honest, we get a lot more views than you do, but you got a big show. You got a big show.
I got to kind of break in really quick. Timcast has been getting featured a little bit more on the YouTube share page. Not as much, but you know how it is when you go to YouTube, you go to the website, and you've got certain videos to click on, certain videos that are going to be advertised, they're going to be, how do I say this, they're going to be promoted a little bit more. My language is a little bit awful. I'm not going to lie to you guys, I'm terrible with it. You may see something from like Mr. Beast, you may see something from like, I'm talking about if you're somebody who's not really like, don't really have an account. But you'll see people, you'll see certain content creators, much larger channels. And Timcast has been featured from time to time up there. A little bit more recently, which is kind of strange, kind of weird, especially given the fact that you've got the New York Times in coordination with CBS and other news outlets trying to get other channels censored. Then again, though, at the same time, there may be an explanation for that I'll get to a little bit later on, probably in video number 3, because I do plan on releasing 3 videos tomorrow. But still, it is kind of odd, if you ask me, because they've never really gone out of their way to promote somebody that would be, I don't know, maybe against the current establishment.
Let me play this clip of Andrew Schultz and Charlamagne the God.
There's no bigger place to go in the business than Joe Rogan right now.
The Breakfast Club is pretty big.
Fam.
No.
Fam, stop it.
Big.
Stop it.
You think Joe Rogan's bigger than Breakfast Club?
10 times the size.
Why do you think that?
Just look at the numbers. I did 10 million views in 2 days.
On what?
On the interview. Between the clips and the interview.
Soulja Boy did 15 in a day.
That's Soulja Boy.
And who was Soulja Boy at that time?
Exactly. Soulja Boy is one of the most well-known artists in the world. Hold on, you really think that your platform is bigger than Rogan?
Just as big, easily.
Come on, bro. Let's look at the recent interviews on Breakfast Club compared to the recent interviews on Rogan.
Do it.
Let's have a nice...
Yo, this is wild. All right. How you want to do this, Charlamagne? You want to just go audio side podcast? All right, let me see if I can pull up that there Breakfast Club on Chartable. Chartable is going to be sunsetted, but for those that don't know audio podcast, I'm in industry. I run a business, and so that's me. I check everything. I know metrics. I know analytics. I know sales number. Charlamagne, you're number 105 in the world. That's pretty good. That's out of all the podcasts in the world, number 105 on Apple, number 198 in the United States on Spotify. Hey, you're just making it to the top 200. That's usually where we track things. That's pretty good, man. You go down to the Chartable rankings, and you can see that Chartable podcast global all podcast reach 25. Now, I want to be careful here with Chartable's numbers. Chartable's numbers are industry only. This means that if you are not signed up for Chartable, you don't rank. So it excludes a ton of big podcasts. I'm not sure even Joe Rogan is listed on Chartable. So the Chartable numbers are kind of bunk. I think Timcast IRL is like number 60 or something on Chartable. Meaningless. And then the last number I checked, I think we were like, I don't know what number Timcast IRL is. We bounce around. We are bigger on YouTube. So number 105. Hey man, that's pretty big. That's pretty big. You know. Here's Joe Rogan. What's this say? 1. Every single number. 1. Are you kidding me, dude?
Edit that little bit up, but as you guys can obviously see, Charlamagne the Fraud is in complete total delusion. Some people try to create a podcast, obviously, with the point of it maybe going big, making them some money some days. I've had some people say that YouTubers were not exactly what you call useful, but in my honest to God opinion, I believe that we're probably some of the most useful people out there because we're constantly countering the narrative. We're constantly hitting back against the narrative. And our use is obviously, how do I say this, a lot more than most mainstream news outlets. After a while, the mainstream media news is just going to become which it already is, 24/7 propaganda. But after a while, the nutty stuff that these people say is just going to be completely laughed at. And the next thing you know, they're only going to be cut on for comedy, which makes you wonder exactly how bad their ratings are going to take a hit, the nosedive they're going to get. Also, given the fact that these people have been, for the most part, been running Kamala Harris's campaign. And of course, you guys obviously saw a little bit there with her going on Shannon Sharpe rather than going on Joe Rogan, who just looks for a conversation. Yeah, it seems to me like there's a reason why it is these news outlets are starting to question the idea of, hey, look, maybe we should do something to try to put a stop to all the streamers out there. Maybe we should do something to put a stop to all the alt-tech platforms. Maybe we should try to, clamp down on free speech. That right there is what these people are trying to do. And, of course, the only time that a candidate or a Democratic Party nominee is ever going to go on any type of podcast is if it's a friendly one, kind of like Club Shay Shay, which I'm tempted to start calling Club Gay Gay, or Charlamagne the Fraud, or as Leonard McKelvey, the 46-year-old man-child, is called by a black conservative perspective, Greg Foreman, Charlamagne the Devil. Still, though, the point is this right here. Harris would not dare go on Joe Rogan, so do us all a favor and spare us with this BS narrative where she says that we reached out to him. You reached out to him for only 30 minutes, and you wanted him to leave his studio to come see you. And you wonder why it is that nobody trusts you or believes you. I mean, guys, it's pretty obvious that the news, they want to shut down social media. That's right, what they want to do. I mean, and like I said before, I am going to be expanding my content come next year. But still, though, you wonder why this is the case. Well, Rogan getting 30-some-odd million views with Donald Trump is a lot more views than Kamala Harris would ever get on any mainstream outlet. And, of course, the most she could produce was 1 million on Club Shay Shay. And, of course, that video got ratioed because people obviously got pissed off with how he conducted the interview. People got serious questions. They want to know why it is they shouldn't vote for Orange Man. But yet Shannon Sharpe goes out of his way to call the woman auntie and offer her cognac. It's a joke. But there's also something else too. If you guys want to see exactly how far the reach really goes, let's see what the overall viewership is going to be when JD Vance goes on Joe Rogan, because he just came out and said that he will be going on Joe Rogan. And it also makes you wonder if his popularity will only be enhanced. You see, they told us that JD Vance was not popular. They told us that he was weird. He was a terrible, god-awful pick for VP. I wonder exactly what the perception is going to be when he goes and he does Rogan. I mean, the guy was recently on Theo Von, and of course, I don't think I need to go through that one, but of course, it was absolutely hilarious because Theo Von is not that bad of a channel. May even consider watching more of his YouTube channel. Still, though, at the same time, this right here is the world that we're living in. We're living in a world where streamers are beginning to dominate. We're living in a world where podcasts are beginning to dominate, and of course, that's overtaken the mainstream media. And of course, the mainstream media is getting upset as a result of that. But we will have a much, much more expansive take on that a little bit later on in the week, especially when we start talking about those text messages that were released by Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson on Twitter this week. Before I close this video out, guys, I did tell you that I would be giving you guys my personal thoughts on Rogan. And my personal thoughts are this right here. I don't really have a problem with Joe Rogan. I really don't. But then again, at the same time, I've always said this right here, and I'll continue to say it. I wouldn't just think of Joe Rogan as my friend as far as conservatives are concerned. Yeah, it's a good idea to obviously go on the show. And, of course, he's obviously shot a bunch of left-wingers down who, quite frankly, made a fool of themselves or continue to make a fool of themselves, a.k.a. people like Jink, people on the far left. You know, those types there, those guys who obviously make a fool of themselves on social media. Pacman, Kalinsky, and Joe Rogan has basically said, we're not going to have you people back on because, of course, you people are obviously nutbags. He's obviously good for that, but Rogan, while I don't fully trust him and never have fully trusted him, the reason why is because during not anything political, it actually started with the whole Ronda Rousey being able to beat up men and stuff. It actually started with that whole thing. But I'll link this video right here from Napoleon Blown Apart in the description box so that way you guys can get further up to speed on that. You'll probably see about 15 minutes in the video why does I feel the way that I feel, because everything that he laid out in that video about Rogan, I pretty much was already feeling back as far as 2014-15 time frame. But still, though, that right there will be it for this video right here. I've got 2 more videos coming out tomorrow, guys. One of them is going to be about this situation with Nick Bosa, which occurred last Sunday night, where MAGA had at the game during the interview at the very end of the game, and people got upset about it. But I'm also going to be talking about the situation with Eric Adams in New York. So make sure you guys stick around for both. Make sure you guys please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comments, and I'll see you guys later.